There's another similarity between a child and humanity. It's their trust, their gullibility. Children are trusting because they don't know anything about the world and rely on grown-ups for everything. So when an adult gives an explanation to a child, the latter will believe it unless he has already learned to question what others tell him. But humanity doesn't have a parent who could explain him how the world works. Now imagine a child that grows up alone, grows up very slowly, who can live for a very, very long time and can be easily killed. How would such a child grow? Maybe as his brain developed and the knowledge of his environment became deeper, and the first glimpses of consciousness appeared, he would try to explain the world around him. In other words, he would create models of the world. The complexity of such models reflects how well we understand reality. That's why at first they are so primitive. Too little knowledge, too much focus on what's close and important for survival. Also, among the first things that the child would be able to understand is death. It's easy to conclude that such knowledge would scare the shit out of the poor wretch. So it's not surprising that he would come up with some ingenious way to delude himself. Hence the ideas of afterlife. That model of the universe was the best people could come up at the time. For people whose grasp of abstract thinking was on the level of a modern 3-year-old child, ideas about gods and demons and magic makes sense. And the subsequent evolution of this magical thinking into what we now know as various religions seems also to reflect the level of development of reasoning capabilities. It's similar to the way a child's fantasy world becomes more and more complex with age because of the growing amount of general knowledge and more developed brain. This process of creating more and more elaborate explanations for supporting one's view of the world can go on indefinitely. It often does. Religious outlook has had its role in the development of humanity. It's been used to unite people. It's been used to teach people the difference between the good and the bad. It's also been used to divide, to wage wars and incite hatred. But whatever it's been, the era of religions dominating the world is ending. Its end started when the amount of knowledge about the world grew so big that old beliefs just couldn't withstand careful examination. Religion became obsolete when science was born. Thus, in most developed countries, people don't really believe in God. They may think that they do, but in reality, they are just going through the motions. They may even follow the rules and perform the required rites, but that's not faith. That's just tradition. That's the desire to belong to a community. Real faith would require modern, educated people to reconcile some outrageously outdated ideas expressed in the holy books with the current knowledge of the world. It takes a certain kind of mind to be able to do the mental gymnastics required to have both religious and scientific worldviews at once. Of course, religions try to adapt to merge the 1,000-year-old views with the scientific knowledge. Religious leaders and thinkers say that the ideas expressed in holy books shouldn't be taken literally, that only learned people can understand them. So, in a way, priests are similar to scientists. They say, believe us, this works even if you don't understand it. The difference is that with science we can see the results everywhere. We are in contact with them all the time, not so with religion. There are a few reasons why religions still exist today. In some countries, it's the lack of education and prevalence of traditional values. In other countries, religions work hard to survive. Considering that religious organizations have been among the most powerful throughout the history, it is not surprising that a lot of livelihoods depend on millions of people believing in this or that deity. But in those countries, religions are more like business enterprises. They satisfy a need, they dull the pain of loneliness, they give a purpose and simple answers. They compete for the customer. It seems like there is no harm. After all, people spend their money on any number of seemingly useless things and activities. If that makes them happy, then who cares? Well, we could apply the same thinking to drugs and other forms of addiction. But all life-avoiding activities are the result of too much pain. Returning to the long-living child metaphor, the child keeps growing and learning, and soon it becomes more and more difficult for him to lie to himself. He discovers that he isn't the center of the universe. He is not protected by God. He is just an animal, a very intelligent one. We are just meat. Death is unavoidable. Good is not always rewarded. Bad is not always punished. What happens to a person when he is confronted with a reality too harsh to accept? He has a crisis. He may resort to escapism or fall back into the old delusions. That's why addictions are so widespread. It is the desire to not think. But escapism isn't the answer. It's not an optimal solution because it doesn't help to adapt, to grow. Others turn to religion. It is better than addictions, but it requires for one to deny reality. Imagine a grown-up forcing himself to believe in Santa. Not many would be able to do that. We need a new outlook, a worldview which would allow us to accept reality as it is and give us a goal to move to. Without it, we'll keep struggling and wasting time. The truth is, religions are destined to be replaced by worldview systems that give people more adaptational advantages. This will happen through the same relentless and objective process of natural selection through which everything alive passes. The carriers of the more advanced belief system will have the edge over those who stick to outdated beliefs. This process started with the development of science and introduction of science-based education. It is still ongoing.